Taylor and I have time to reveal the nominees in one more Grammy category. Album of the Year.
Blunderbuss by Jack White.
I think all Jack White music should just be called Jack White, because as soon as a guitar strum happens, you go, oh, Jack White.
I think that he finally just decided, you know, I've done everything I want to do. The last thing to check off is a solo album.
Blunderbuss is a collection of beautiful songs that showcase his guitar playing, his songwriting, and his knowledge of music.
I want love to roll me over slowly, stick a knife inside me and twist it all around.
You can tell a little bit that he may have gone through a divorce recently.
I want love to murder my own mother.
It frames it differently, that following his divorce that he would come out with something that stood as his own solo statement. All that said, remember that Karen Elson sings on this record, so you know, it's also not a clean split.
When Karen Elson and him got divorced, they had like a divorce party, which seemed like, it didn't seem like they had a lot of baggage. You know, they realized it was time to move on. I think that, you know, songs like Love Interruption, in particular on this record, are very frank about, you know, his situation.
The keyboard aspect of Love Interruption was something that struck me immediately. Because, you know, with Jack White, you're obviously expecting guitars. You're expecting that kind of purist side of him. And I was concerned that the solo album might be one-dimensional in that regard. And, you know, it just all sounded fresh, but still, you know, distinctive in the way that you want his music to be distinct.
16 Saltines, one of my favorite songs and favorite videos of the year. It's such a short sort of burst of energy of the song, and it gets played on radio and you're like, what is this? You know? The video is this really cool, like, post-apocalyptic, kids doing terrible things, like Jack's barely in it. And at the end he gets burned alive in a car. I mean, like, who else? You know, like, who else would do that?
One of the fun things about that Freedom at 21 video is when he makes that goofy little face, you know, that they kept that in.
She's got freedom in the 21st century.
Something about him has gotten a little more fun in the last few years, and I think he's enjoying himself maybe a little more.
Jack White gets Hype Williams to do the video. You know, it's flashy, and it's a different look for him because he's not a dude who has a lot of flash. At the end of the day, Jack White realizes that basically he's just playing with house money, and like his life is pretty great. If he wants to do, you know, a video with Hype Williams, he's just going to do it.
She don't care what color bruises that she's leaving on me.
And I think it's sort of his capacity to still be surprising that's really fun about it.
The tour, you know, God love it, taking out the two bands and telling them every morning at breakfast who was going to be playing on stage with him that night. He finds a way to keep everybody hanging, and you feel that. You feel the urgency in the music. And he had to change up his color scheme. So.
I think that he has sort of, throughout his career, sort of rallied against the sort of lunkheadedness of rock music in general. He was avowedly against macho in rock music. And if that means, you know, producing records for Wanda Jackson and Loretta Lynn, and talking about how great of a drum player Meg White was, I think that's sort of one way to accomplish that right off the bat.
Throughout his career, Jack White has not only shared spotlight with, you know, with women, with female performers, either producing them or working with them. You know, those have really been the focal point of a bunch of his projects, including that he always said that the White Stripes were Meg's band. That's always been his stance. He's like, I could go do this anywhere. I could only make this sound with her, you know, under this umbrella. I think he thrives on, you know, he thrives on tension. He thrives on musical tension. He thrives on creative tension. He thrives on sexual tension.
I think he almost wants the sort of yin and yang of working with a woman, and I think he's found that for whatever reason that really serves him.
I mean, it might just sound too simplistic, you know, but I think Jack White likes women. He responds to, you know, that kind of collaboration with women, and I think that's part of his artistry.
He does a lot with not very many elements in a way that somehow has stayed fresh over, 15 years. Being elemental isn't synonymous with just sort of being simple or boring or played out. He makes something raw feel fresh over and over.
This is why you love Jack White. You love Jack White because at a time when anything that anybody does, is on the web 60 seconds later, you think it's impossible to retain mystery and to retain aura and romance and mystique, and he has been able to do that.
We also want to congratulate all of tonight's Grammy nominees.
And we will see you at the Grammys on February 10th.